Welcome to the Community Table, where we explore the secrets to success of the top real estate producers in our local market. A real conversation, hosted by Community Mortgage.
Okay, everybody, it's Melanie Nichols, and thanks for coming to the Community Table. I'm with Community Mortgage, and today we have Juanita Hamilton with THDA with us. We're going to ask her some questions today about first-time home buyers and some of the things that we can do to help you overcome those obstacles. So, Juanita, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about the THDA program in itself.
Okay.
What does it do for first-time home buyers?
All right, so THDA, Tennessee Housing Development Agency, we are an agency of the state, and so our program is available across the entire state of Tennessee, doesn't matter where you are. And we help first-time home buyers with down payment, closing cost assistance. We also go through our first mortgage program, and sometimes our rate's a little better, so sometimes you can get a little lower rate. We do have special programs that help special groups, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But basically, we're here to help first-time home buyers, repeat buyers, anyone trying to purchase a home. If you meet the eligibility requirements, then we might be able to assist you in getting into that.
How is THDA different from FHA or conventional?
So FHA and conventional are going to be your insurers. Those are mortgage program types. THDA is actually a program that comes in after. So we're not the first mortgage type. We work with FHA, we work with VA, USDA, or conventional loans, and put our program on top of that. So you qualify for that FHA loan, conventional loan, VA loan, and then you come to THDA for your assistance after. So we actually help more with getting you into the home than actually the first mortgage itself.
Okay, great. What role does Tennessee Housing Development Agency play in helping first-time home buyers across the state?
So the main reason people use THDA, number one, sometimes, as I mentioned, our rate, but primarily it's because of the down payment assistance. So you've got buyers that you're working with that they meet all your requirements to purchase a home. They just don't have that money to close. And that's where THDA can step in and help those buyers. But again, because we do have sometimes really good interest rates, we are able to assist buyers who have their own down payment. So if you have your money, you can still come to THDA. If our rate is lower for that first mortgage, you can just take that first mortgage from THDA. You're not required to take the DPA, but our primary function has been to assist buyers with DPA.
Okay. And then who qualifies? Who qualifies for the first-time home buyer program under the THDA?
So with THDA, our definition of first-time home buyer is a little different than some. Most places it's someone who has not had ownership interest in property in the last 3 years, but for THDA we take it a step further. So at THDA it's someone who has not owned and occupied residence as their primary residence in the last 3 years. So if you have heir property, you had a family member pass away, that house is now yours, you've never moved into it, you could still qualify as a first-time home buyer.
Nice.
Or let's say you were really savvy as a youngster and you bought rental property. And so now you've got this rental property, you never lived in it, and now you want to purchase a home to live in, you could still qualify as a first-time home buyer.
Very
so it's
good.
own and occupy.
Okay. And then how do the credit or the income limits affect what people can qualify for?
So as a lender, when you're working up their numbers, so at THDA, like I said, we come in after the fact. So we're going to review the mortgage that you approved them for, whether it's FHA, conventional, whatever that type is, and using the income that your underwriter determines their income is going to determine the amount of house that they can buy. So the higher your income, the higher the sales price you'd be able to purchase.
And are we using everybody in the household income like some other programs use the whole household income for income limits? Does THDA do that?
No, THDA, we used to do that, but THDA, they stopped doing it a few years ago, but now we only count the income of the applicant. So if you've got a husband and a wife, and they're both on the loan, we're going to combine their income. If they have grown children that are not on the loan, their income would not be included. But also if you have a husband and wife, and let's say the loan is going to be in the wife's name only, the husband's not on the loan, we're not going to count his income when we look at that income to determine they're eligible for the program, which means a lot more borrowers can qualify. If you had a situation where only one was going to be on the loan, in the past, that other person's income would have taken them over the limit. Now it doesn't, because we're only using the person who's going to sign that note.
And are we only using their credit as well? You're not using credit against like what's on the husband against the wife or vice versa?
I mean, if it's joint credit and it shows up, if it's his but it shows up on her credit report, we will. But his separate credit and her separate credit, we're only going to use the applicant's. We don't even ask for the co-borrower or the spouse's income. Credit report, nothing on that person who's not on the loan. So only the person on the loan.
If they had a car together, but he pays it, will you do like FHA allows to take 12 months canceled checks or bank statements showing that he's the one actually responsible?
That's going to be at our underwriter's discretion, but I have seen them do that. So, with a proper explanation and proper documentation, and you can prove that even though, my name is on it, he pays it, that exception can be made.
Okay, great. All right, let's see. Are there any location restrictions? That's a good one.
So for first-time home buyers, there are no location restrictions. They can purchase anywhere in the state of Tennessee. Doesn't matter zip code, census tract, county. We do have repeat buyers. We do allow for someone who does currently own or has owned and occupied in the last 3 years to purchase in targeted areas. So those would be the only restrictions. If you're a repeat buyer, there are certain counties and certain census tracts within some counties that you would be able to purchase. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you can purchase anywhere in the state, no limitations.
Okay, and in some of those counties, there are exceptions to that first-time home buyer.
Right. Those are those targeted areas.
Targeted areas.
Right. And it actually covers more than half the counties in the state.
How does THDA help with buyers' down payment?
So we have two programs available for down payment, and you get one. So you can't, some people want to do both. You can only take one option. One option is up to $6,000 deferred payment loan. Means there's no monthly payments, there's no interest accruing. It does have a 30-year term, so it just sits there for up to 30 years. If you sell or refinance, you would repay the full $6,000 at that time. But if you need that money to help you get in the home, or let's say you're in the process of saving, but you haven't saved up all your money yet, and so this money can help you get into the house. You can save your money. You can pay it off whenever you want to. It's a good idea for a veteran or USDA loan that's 100% financing. The $6,000 can be used to pay closing costs. So really you can pretty much close also almost with no money down without spending any of your own funds if that $6,000 covers it. The other option we have is going to be our payback. That's going to be up to 5% of the sales price, not to exceed $15,000. But with that option, you do have to pay it back monthly. So it does accrue interest. The interest rate is going to be the same as the first. It's also a 30-year term. If you sell or refinance, you pay off the remaining balance the same way you pay off the first mortgage. So in that case, you would have two mortgage payments. You'd make a payment on your first, and then you make a payment on the second. But that deferred option, which we do a lot of that deferred $6,000 option, because there's no monthly payment. It's really like it's a 0% interest loan. It's like you're borrowing from yourself. And if, 3 years from now you hit the lottery, you can go in and pay it off, and you still only owe the $6,000.
So the $6,000 one doesn't have interest that accrues on it in 10 years when you sell your home?
No, you owe if you got $6,000 today, you'll owe $6,000. Whether it's a year, 5 years, 10 years, you'll still only owe $6,000.
Okay, great. All right, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about, is this a grant or is it an actual loan?
Some people like to call it a grant, but it's not truly a grant because there is the repayment.
Okay.
So at some point in time, for both of them, you're going to have to repay. It just depends on whether you're paying back with interest over time or you're paying back a lump sum, upon sale or refinance. But it's not truly a grant. Well, it's deferred for 30 years. If you do not sell or refinance for 30 years, it is forgiven at the end of 30 years. So in that respect, you can kind of call it a grant.
Is that what they call recapture?
For us, no. For other programs, that is recapture,
Okay.
but for THDA, recapture is something totally different.
Okay, perfect. All right. What about if I wanted to get a THDA loan? How do I find the lenders to get pre-qualified to go on and start that process?
Well, we would look for you, of course. One of our primary lenders using our program. On our website, we do have a page for home buyers, and on that page, they can find a realtor or a lender. We list the lenders by company name, not by individuals. So you'll find Community Mortgage and all the other mortgage companies and banks that use our program, and you can select from that list. And then you would need to contact them and find a lender.
How long does the process usually take?
So I can only speak on the THDA process. You can give some insight on the lender process, because then I know it all depends on the borrower and the situation. I know I've seen some loans that come through in 15 days and some come through in 45 days and some take longer if there's issues. But the THDA process, once you've gone through the lender and you've gotten your approval from the lender, it takes us, it goes through our processing team, and then it goes to our underwriting team who reviews it. And that process takes 48 to 72 hours, depending on the volume. at the time, but normally within 48 hours, we've given a decision whether it was asking for additional conditions or issuing that approval. Once it comes back to the lender, then you're ready to close. So we don't provide the documents. The lender draws the documents. The lender provides the funds. So there's nothing else you're waiting for from THDA. Just that 48-hour time for us to review it, issue that approval, and then it's back on the lender and it's back to a regular closing.
All right, and with community mortgage, typically we can get a THDA loan done in about 30 days. 30 days.
Good.
That's from the time that they have been application, pre-approval, appraisal, title work, income, any assets. Can I have a bunch of money sitting in the bank and still do THDA?
So that's the one good thing about our program. I worked for a previous down payment assistance program, and there was a limit to how much money you could have. With THDA, in our guidelines, it does, there's something in there that indicates a limit, but there is no dollar amount. And I have not seen anyone turn down for having too much money in the bank. So, most of the time people think of down payment assistance programs as only low income. And you mentioned our income limits, and I think our income limits are pretty generous. Wish they were higher, but they are pretty generous to consider this to be a down payment assistance program. But we do not have a limit on how much money you have in the bank.
And those limits are set by previous census tracts, I believe.
I think we use HUD.
Censuses.
Right. Well, it's HUD's data is what's determining
the
the income limits per county. So, for example, in this area, Shelby County has one limit. Tipton, Fayette County have a higher income limit than Shelby County, but it's based on the collection of incomes within that county that determine what that number is.
Okay. All right. Can you do a THDA loan for a fixer-upper?
Not really. The house, well, number one, it has to be owner occupied. You have to move in within 60 days. And if there are repairs, if the appraiser requires repairs, before it to be owner occupied, it's not going to qualify for THDA. We do not do like 203K loans, rehab loans, where you can borrow the money to rehab it while you're purchasing it. But if there are some minor repairs that need to be done, we can allow for a repair escrow, as long as, the lender and the title company are willing to hold those funds and do what they need to do to get the work done and inspected. Would have to be approved by us beforehand. But 99% of the time, we're not doing repairs.
Okay. Let's see. Is it only for low income buyers? I don't think so, because we talked about what the income limits were. And if I'm a family of 4, but we're only using my income and I make about 98 and some change,
you can still qualify for our program.
I could still qualify for the program.
Mm-hmm. And actually, here in Shelby County, it's like 100. If there's 3 or more people in the household, it's like 113,000, and you can still qualify for our program.
That's good income. That's good income.
And again, we're only using the income of the applicant. So, one person can make 100,000, the other person can make 100,000. But if only one of them is on the loan, even though their household income is 200, we're only going to count the 100 from the applicant. So we're not even counting that other person. So the household income limit could be a lot higher.
I'm wondering, is it harder for buyers to get their contracts accepted if it says it's going FHA, THDA?
I think in the past, a couple of years ago, when inventory was really low, and there were a lot of people put out a listing out, and there were like 50 offers in a day. I think during that time it was a lot. Well, people perceived that it was going to take a lot longer to do THDA, so I think that did hinder some people in using the program. But we've changed the contract a little bit so that it doesn't say that it's a THDA loan, because it's not. It's an FHA loan.
Correct.
And so I think that has helped some. It should not. But as long as all parties know that, just expect, to add 2 or 3 days for us to get that approval. But now you've got a buyer who's rock solid and who has their down payment and ready to go. So to me, it's worth the 2-day wait.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice to know that you can just have them FHA or VA or USDA. You don't have to add the extra parts on there to get that contract submitted. Let's see. Do buyers have to have perfect credit?
So with our program, you want to have the best credit you can have so that you get the best financial deal, obviously. But we do have a minimum middle credit score of 640 for our government loans. So FHA, VA, USDA, you have to have a 640 for your middle credit score, a minimum of 640. And then for our conventional product, we do not have a requirement at all. We don't have a debt to income ratio requirement or a credit score. As long as you're able to get that approval through the Freddie Mac approval system, then you qualify for THDA.
And let me say this. If you have monitoring your credit and you're not really sure where you are credit-wise, contact me or any reputable lender that's through the THDA website, and they can help you get to the point where your credit is good enough. I've worked for people before that they started in the 500s, and about a year later, we worked on all the things that they needed to do to get their credit to 640, and it was actually a lot higher than that. And then they were able to go on, and it's part of the plan. If your big dream is to buy a house, get with the people that can help you make that dream come true.
Right, and also homebuyer counseling.
Yes.
We do require homebuyer counseling from all of our applicants. So if you've got a married couple, both of them have to complete. If it's a married couple, only one person's on the loan, only the person on the loan would have to complete it. And they also will go over credit issues. And, I always say when I do homebuyer workshops, is whatever they tell you to do. So if the lender tells you, pay off your credit card or pay down your credit card or open a credit card, just do what they tell you to do. And you're pretty much, it's a good chance that you're going to be able to purchase that home in that time frame. But if you don't, it's like don't buy anything new right before closing. There are a lot of things that that you need to really listen to your professional on, and that's why they're the professional and do what they do.
When we talk about the homebuyer education or homebuyer counseling class, that is offered two different ways. That's offered online, and I believe it costs about $99. And if it's you and your spouse, you both are not paying $99. You're just paying one time, but you're registering both names. Or you could go and take it in person, and it's all day long on a Saturday out by the airport is the one that I've referred most people to. It's $25, and they feed you lunch. So you do have to have that homebuyer education certification before you can close on your loan, and the underwriter won't give you your final approval until that's been done. When we've had some problems with weather, when we went through COVID is when we started to do a lot of the education online. So if you guys have any questions about the education part, please reach out to me or Juanita, or get to the THDA.org website, and you can look up all this information as well.
Right, and on the counseling, so there's actually three ways, Melanie. So there's the online, which is strictly online, and it did go up $1, so now it's $100 through eHome America, where you do the class online, and then you have to have a phone call. So, and I like to stress that on that class, because even though it's easy to do that course online on the computer, you can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning if you want to, you have to have an hour phone call. And so that process now is longer. So there's documents you have to submit, because now that counselor has to do a counseling session with you in addition to the education that you got from the computer. And it could take up to 10 days to get that certificate. So if that works for your schedule, that's fine. Just make sure you plan ahead of time, because THDA will not move your file from our processing team to our underwriting team without a home buyer. So THDA feels very strongly on home buyer counseling. We actually have a department, and we work with the counseling agencies across the state. They're all HUD approved now. And so we do have staff that work directly with those counseling agencies. So we will not approve a file without a housing counseling certificate.
I don't think we'll even submit it to THDA without it, because we know better.
And the certificates are good for a year, and the earlier you take it, the better, because then you learn. So when Melanie mentions to you like DTI, you're like, what is that? If you have that homebuyer counseling, you'll understand some of those terms. You'll understand the difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan. So homebuyer counseling is really, really important for you to be the best buyer that you can be, so that everything, you get what you're looking for, but you even know what to look for.
I've recommended that first-time homebuyer class to several people, whether they were going THDA or not, because I can give you a whole bunch of information about the things that you need to pay attention to and what it takes to get you approved. And then your real estate agent goes through all of the stuff they need to go through about the property. But there's still so much more to know when you become a first-time home buyer. There's after the deal is closed, your hot water tank breaks. Well, guess what? You don't have a landlord anymore, so you need to take care of it. And those things can obviously be negotiated within like a home warranty or stuff like that with your real estate agents. Let's talk just a minute about when you get a file and do you guys question or go back and apply extra conditions after an underwriter with a lender has approved it and sent it to you guys?
So our underwriters, we will issue additional conditions, and it may be a case where maybe the lender, just something didn't get submitted and so we need it. But if we get documents that are, I said we have a question on or have an issue with, it is possible for additional conditions to be issued. At which time our underwriter will issue the conditions, your processor will get them, you clear them, submit those documents, and then you get your clear to close. But it is possible to get additional conditions after the lender's underwriter has approved the file.
Do you guys have, besides Community Mortgage, your favorite local lenders, or is Community Mortgage just it?
Community Mortgage is it.
Good answer.
I really do. And I worked for another agency that did down payment assistance, and Community Mortgage has always been one of my favorite. I like the people. I like the reception. I like, you guys let us come out and do training and refresh and ask questions, and you use the program. So Community Mortgage really honestly is one of my favorite lenders.
Now, do each lender have to be approved to do THDA with you guys?
Yeah, so like Community Mortgage, if you have different branches, once Community Mortgage is approved, the branches are all able to use the program, but each lender does have to apply. We have an online application process now that you go through, you submit your documents, and that's all done through our office in Nashville. And now there is a 1-year renewal. So just a note that if you don't use the program, so we do have a minimum requirement. So the lenders that are on our list are lenders that are actually doing loans. So they have to do 6 loans a year. Otherwise, we remove them from the list. So we just had a list go out with some of my favorite lenders who had not done 6 loans, and they're actually being removed from the list, or they have to do something to stay on the list. So the ones on the list, we actually on our website, when you go to the lenders, we'll list the top 10 lenders across the state as far as production goes. And so you can check those out as well. But if they're on the list, they're either doing loans or they're going to be removed from the list shortly.
So, and if they're doing loans, that means that they have pretty good knowledge of the program and the personnel and the things that are required to get that loan approved.
Right,
Okay.
right. Like I said, Community Mortgage actually was on a list for, just so you guys know, on the processing list for, I think I found 3 Community Mortgage processors on our least condition list. So the files that had the least conditions coming back from the processing team, Community Mortgage had 3 individual processors that were on that list. So they do put together really good files.
I bet my processor was one of them.
Yes. I'm pretty sure. I have to go check.
Yeah, I bet it
But there were
was.
3.
Yeah, she's a great processor. So I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in, and the community table, Melanie Nichols with Community Mortgage, Juanita Hamilton with THDA. And if you need Juanita, how do we get you?
So you can reach me. I am here locally in West Tennessee in Memphis. My cell phone number is 901-422-4389. Again, 901-422-4389. And my email address is a little bit different. Everyone else at THDA is first initial last name, but they already had a J Hamilton. So my email address is JH so 2 H's, jhamilton@thda.org.
And if you need me to get you pre-approved or talk to your buyers, it's Melanie Nichols with Community Mortgage, 901-412-5514. Thanks. I appreciate y'all joining us.
Thank you.